So here is another named tweet. It's called Poem. P-O-E-M. Poem. Passion is a buzzword. One of the key goals in the service industry is to close gaps in communication and access, within reason, for a balance. Everyone has empathy, but we love differently, with many valid approaches. More approaches, more considerations. Be considerate. So you'll hear this word when you're going to apply for a job, or you're going to, I don't know, become any kind of job, really. It doesn't even have to be something paid. It can be an acting gig, theater. It can be anything. It can be anything. But usually they'll when you're trying to apply for a job, they'll say, well, do you have the passion for it? Is this your passion? I have passion. I have passion. And I say passion is a buzzword because it's not really strictly defined. It continues here. One of the key goals in the service industry is to close gaps in communication and access within reason for a balance. So passion, you can say someone's passionate, but there isn't really any substance there. You can be dedicated, okay, dedicated, passion. I have passion for this. We all have empathy. We love differently. We all have a different form of passion. We all have a different way of being passionate. Sometimes you might see somebody and you might go, well, I don't think you're being passionate enough. I don't think you're passionate. And that person might not be showing overtly how much passion they have for something. There's many valid approaches. More approaches, more considerations. Be considerate. One of the reasons it's called poem is each sentence starts with P-O-E-M. This is generally a tweet that's all about understanding everybody. I know it seems a little bit convoluted. But I will clear the air. This is what I do on this channel. I take something abstract and maybe a little complicated, and I break it down. I lower my vocabulary and drop it to simple language so that we can all enjoy, and maybe add a little humor. We'll see a little humor in there too. So, passion being a buzzword, because everyone has their own approach to work, to things that you would be passionate about, to art, to anything that you have to be creative and put in some effort. Everyone has their own viewpoint on what that means, on what the levels are, what the balance is, how much you need, how much passion does somebody need to be invested, to be involved at a sufficient level. So I feel when I hear someone's got passion, it just doesn't mean anything. It's a buzzword because it doesn't mean anything. If you put in the time and you have a good skill stack, a good amount of things you can provide to the job, to the situation, to whatever you're putting your time and energy into, yeah, sure, you can call it passion. Call it passion. But to me, it doesn't really ring as much of a substantive or substantial word. Now, this goes into the talk of service industry. So the service industry is so broad. On this channel, we sometimes get so broad that you really have to. You can actually, the idea, let me explain this. The idea when I go really broad is that you can plug in your situation. You use your imagination, plug it into my broad frame, and either the frame fits and you agree, or it doesn't, and you'll disagree and not get anything out of it. You won't find any utility with it. So service industry is so broad, and that's intentional. So one of the key goals in the service, any service, food service, customer service, technological services, any industry that involves service, is to close the gaps in communication and access within reason for a balance. So you want to make sure your customers and you are on the same page. You don't want there to be any, they say that some people are really passionate about their customer base. And the fact is, sometimes you're so good that at getting ahead of problems I'm not sure if this is something that the IT people can attest to, but certainly you're so good at getting ahead of problems that you almost don't even have to appear passionate. You just sort of set it and forget it on something. So again, passion, amorphous. Sometimes people put in all the time at the beginning of a workday and then don't do much for the rest of it, but the work gets done anyway. Are they passionate? Only half the time, but the same amount of work got done. I mean, it's bordering on nonsense because of this being such a buzzword, but I just want to make it clear that everyone's different. Like everybody has their own filter, their own way, of their own form of passion. So when you say, well, you don't seem passionate, sometimes being dispassionate is the way to go. You know what I mean? Sometimes being dispassionate is the more apt solution. So we all have empathy, but we love differently. We all have empathy, but we love differently. Sometimes love comes in the form of kind of hate, of resistance. Some people, we are fed more by negative energy than positive. Often a balanced mix will work, but in general, the language of love differs, and passion either in a romantic context or a service industry context, the language of love differs, the language of passion differs. So it renders it a bit of a buzzword, in my opinion, with many valid approaches. We all love differently with many valid approaches. Love, and here's another thing. Love in this case, and this is how broad this gets, we can talk about romantic love. We can also just talk about the love of the product, the love of the job, the love of the vocation, and how much energy we want to put into it. How much do we want to bring our game? And some people will bring all their game, but due to the style or approach that they're using, it'll seem that they're not bringing any of it. It's just a weird world, isn't it? You'll see that out there. People have their own style of love. Love being positivity in this context, in this weird frame. Love is positivity. Love is productivity. Love is creation, not destruction. But all artists know, all good artists know, you have to destroy to create. And, oh, is that correct? Destroy to create? To have art, you have to create and destroy. That's more accurate. So, more approaches, more considerations, and finally, this sort of cute, be considerate. So, a little thought on there. Passion is a buzzword. It doesn't mean anything. Everyone has their own filter and way of, finding meaning in a word and what that word means to them.